Hey guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson, and we're in episode 4 talking about metabolic positioning, the phrase that we use to describe how to get from maintenance or being in a calorie surplus to losing body fat maximally. And I used to use this slogan, Adam, that even with the same amount of calories, you can be losing up to 50% more body fat. And the reason research supports that, it's not overall, it's not over the course of a year or so. It describes how we can just keep moving back and forth from losing body fat to gaining, losing body fat to gaining. So we've already talked about why the bloodstream is the instant go-to for your body for energy substrates. Then you've got liver glycogen, and we're going to definitely be using some body fat, and we could even be using amino acids, meaning potential lean body mass loss. But by the time we get through liver glycogen and into muscle glycogen, we're getting close to that point where you've got to be careful about losing lean body mass. But it's a two-edged sword, because we have to get to that point to lose body fat, but getting too far into that area with too low of a calorie deficit, or I should say too much of a calorie deficit, too low of calories, or too low of carbohydrates, means more catabolic potential, more potential for muscle loss. So we've gone through what's in the bloodstream, we've gone through what's in the liver, now we're into muscle tissue glycogen, and then finally into a greater level of body fat storage. So in this area, Adam, if you could describe what the difference is between muscle glycogen and liver glycogen.
Yeah, so muscle glycogen is stored in the muscle, and you have a much larger supply of it, roughly like around 500 grams for a healthy adult. And you actually use that muscle glycogen during training. So when you're doing movements and specifically higher reps, you normally really deplete that muscle glycogen. So to deplete that muscle glycogen, you know, your workouts, also your caloric deficit come into play. So this can definitely be a big difference. And this is why HIIT cardio can be so effective after like a large meal, because it can really help you deplete that muscle glycogen, so you have extra room for muscle storage versus that extra glucose finding the fat cell instead.
And again, it's a two-edged sword. So think about those times in the off season when you have a big meal, you've got enough food overall, and so you've got these monstrous workouts, you feel great, you feel strong, your muscle bellies feel full, and then all of a sudden you're in a calorie deficit and you feel flatter a lot of the times. You can't get that same feeling in the gym. You see your strength going down. And we want the best of both worlds, but you have to understand your first priority. And in body fat loss, of course, it's to stay in that metabolic position. So, as I said earlier, if we get halfway there, we've depleted our liver glycogen a little bit and we're into the muscle cells, and then we have these massive refeeds or cheat meals or high days, we will refill all of those carbohydrate storage places and convert into body fat. I'm not even talking about that this series yet, but you can definitely, even in a dieting state, store body fat just from one meal. But if you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, instead of just staying right there at that maximum metabolic position for fat loss, it's very inefficient. And that's what I mean by you can lose body fat up to 50% faster with an overall total calories that are much, much higher if you just learn not to shoot yourself in the foot, to learn how you can throttle into those better metabolic positions and stay there. But again, I'll let you finish up, Adam, by describing how we still need some muscle glycogen to prevent muscle loss, to prevent catabolism.
Yeah, if you don't have, glycogen in the muscle cells, it becomes harder to contract them. Water is what makes up your muscle tissue, and that water in the muscle tissue is what gives you that fullness. So you definitely have to keep some glycogen in there. And one thing that people often, like I had a client get really concerned that her protein was too low. And I said, well, if I raised your protein, I would then have to lower your carbs, and you're already getting enough amino acids. You're just not going to get more by me giving you more protein. And I said, if it makes you feel better, I could, on your refeed days, give you more protein. But I really think that we're moving at a pace that you're really protected against that loss. So there, a lot of people really worry about high protein, and I'm more so worried about keeping carbs appropriate for enough loss, but also to starve off catabolism.
Right. And guys, we'll wrap up in the next episode talking about that. What about ketogenesis? What about that kind of diet? Because there's some implication there that we've just kind of been skirting around. So stay tuned for the final episode, and we will chat with you next time in Contest Prep University.